And welcome back to Giratina TCG. In this week's long overdue early deck preview, we're going to be taking a look at Giratina VSTAR, a really powerful card coming out of Lost Origin, which is a part of our September set that is going to really shake up the way the game is played with the Lost Zone mechanic. And I do apologize for the delay on the past couple weeks putting out videos. I was unfortunately out with COVID, so my voice really wasn't up to the challenge of getting all this information out to you. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and take a look at the deck list, and then we'll dive into the new cards that are coming out in Lost Origin. When it's time to flex on your opponents in Top Cut this season, or even just upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of custom playmats, custom dice bags, face masks, as well as mouse pads too, and a grip of sleeves and dice and deck boxes, all your TCG accessory needs. And you can use the code DADSPOD10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. So this is going to be one of the more straightforward vanilla lists with very little tech as possible. This deck is really just heavy focused on attacking with Giratina VSTAR as often as possible and as effective as possible by steering into the Lost Zone mechanic, which we'll embellish on in a little bit here. Giratina V is a 220 HP Dragon type V Pokemon, which, yes, that means it has no weakness whatsoever. And for one colorless, it does Abyss Seeker. And you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put 2 of them into your hand, and then put 2 of them into the Lost Zone. Now, the Lost Zone is like a discard pile, but there are no cards currently in the format that allow you to interact with those cards once they are into the Lost Zone. However, there is a mechanic in this deck that benefits from you having X amount of cards in the Lost Zone. And the next attack, Shred, for 1 grass, 1 psychic, and 1 colorless, does 160 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects of your opponent's active Pokemon. So this swings through things like Miltank, Decidueye, anything that might wall off V or V-Star Pokemon in the future or in the current standard format is going to be useless against Giratina V because of its 160 shred attack. As I had mentioned before, it is a dragon type Pokemon, so it does not have a weakness, and its retreat cost is 2 colorless. Giratina VSTAR is a very, very powerful 280 HP Dragon type VSTAR Pokemon. For 1 grass, 1 psychic, and 1 colorless, it does Lost Impact for 280 damage, which is the magic number in this format right now. You put 2 energy attached to any of your Pokemon into the Lost Zone if you use this attack, so you are unfortunately discarding energy into an area where you cannot interact with it any further. However, we do have cards in this deck that allow us to accelerate energy at free will, which is really powerful. And it's V-Star Power Star Requiem for 1 grass and 1 psychic. If you have 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out, which is a really big game changer, because things like Duraludon VMAX with 360 HP with a big charm attached is really hard to get through. Of course, you would love to one-shot it by adding things like Howlucha as well as Choice Belt onto Giratina, but you still don't hit those numbers perfectly, and it makes a deck less consistent. So having a backup attack in the form of Star Requiem to be able to knock out any Pokemon of any size with 2 energy is very, very powerful. Now, the engine to this deck to be able to get as many cards into the Lost Zone as possible has to be the new Comfey that comes out in Lost Origin. Its ability flower picking once during your turn. If this Pokemon is in the active spot, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand, and then you put the other card into the Lost Zone. This is a really cool ability that you can recycle by using things like switch cards in the form of Escape Rope and Air Balloon, but we also have things like Scoop Up Net to be able to pick up the Comfey and switch into another one and try to streamline getting as many cards into the Lost Zone as possible to best utilize Star Requiem and the other things in this deck that utilize the Lost Zone for its mechanic. The new Cramorant that also comes out in Lost Origin benefits from having cards in the Lost Zone by using its Lost Supply ability. If you have 4 cards or more in the Lost Zone, you ignore all energy in this Pokemon's attack cost. So the 2 water and 1 colorless Conniving Spit for 110 damage that isn't affected by weakness attacks for free, and that is actually a huge perk for a single prize attacker to be able to hit for 110 damage for no energy whatsoever, and that's really a cool feature. We are also running 1 Radiant Greninja with the Concealed Cards ability to be able to discard a energy card from our hand to draw a little bit deeper into the deck is a huge perk, and I understand we are running an energy discard engine with Giratina, so it feels a little bit bad to have to discard energy out of our hand, but we do play things like Training Court that allow us to get that energy back if need be, so it's just circumstantial draw at best. This is a card I typically do not put into any of my decks, but it is necessary to have a little bit of draw in the form of Crobat V with its Dark Asset ability. Once during your turn, if you put this onto your bench from your hand, you may draw until you have 6 cards in your hand, so it just pushes you a little bit further into the resources in your deck. We're playing 4 Quick Ball, 3 Evolution Incense, and 4 Battle VIP Pass to really streamline getting those Comfey out to start rotating that Lost Zone engine as soon as possible. And we're running 4 of the new Colorus Experiment Supporter. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you put 3 of them into your hand, and then you put the other cards into the Lost Zone. So between things like the Comfey Flower Picking Engine as well as the Colorus Experiment Supporter card, we're really able to streamline getting as many cards into the Lost Zone as possible and as early into the game as we can. We're playing 2 Boss's Orders, and we're also playing 2 Gardenia's Vigor because Giratina's attack cost is 1 grass and 1 colorless and 1 psychic for almost all of its impactful attacks. You're actually able to accelerate 2 grass energy from your hand onto any of your bench Pokemon in any fashion that you would like, and you can draw 2 cards. So it is mildly circumstantial, but this is a great acceleration engine for any deck that needs to be filled with a colorless plus a grass energy, and I think Gardenia's Vigor really fills that role well. We're playing 4 Scoop Up Net to be able to recycle things like Comfey as well as the Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability. It also gives us a mild amount of pivoting as well. We're playing 4 of the new Mirage Gate item cards. This is going to change the way we accelerate energy for the rest of the standard format after this releases, and it's actually so powerful and very, very easy to pull off between things like Comfey and the Colorus Experiment and Giratina's first attack that allows you to put cards into the Lost Zone as well. You can only play this card if you have 7 cards or more into the Lost Zone. You search your deck for up to 2 basic energy of different types, and then you attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. This is an insane item card. Being able to accelerate energy straight from the deck, they do need to be different types, which is pretty circumstantial. However, this plays heavily into how all these dragon Pokemon with really funky energy costs are going to be able to work in the future. We're also playing 1 Lost Sweeper. You can play this card only if you put another card from your hand into the Lost Zone, and then you choose either a Pokemon Tool card or a Stadium card in play and put that card into the Lost Zone as well. So you can get rid of your opponent's Choice Belt, Big Charm, Cape of Toughness, or their stadiums like Path to the Peak and so on and so forth. And then you can also add cards to the Lost Zone. So I think that this is a really cool card for the deck like this that needs to have cards in the Lost Zone, and just to be able to get out from behind things like Path to the Peak. We're playing 1 Escape Rope to really force our opponent into uncomfortable situations and giving ourselves a mild amount of mobility. We're playing 2 Air Balloons because switching between Comfey and digging into our resources and adding cards to the Lost Zone simultaneously is very important in this matchup. We're playing 1 copy of Lost City. When a Pokemon is knocked out, put it in the Lost Zone instead of discarding it, and all cards attached to that Pokemon go into the discard pile. So this again helps us get cards into the Lost Zone. We're playing 2 copies of Training Court to be able to get that energy out of the discard pile and attach it to our Pokemon any way we see fit, so that we can then send it to the Lost Zone with Giratina VSTAR. We're playing 6 Grass Energy and 6 Psychic Energy, and that basically rounds out the entire 60 for my very straightforward Giratina V-STAR deck. There are plenty of other things that we can tech into this deck because Mirage Gate is so powerful. You are able to add so many different cards to a list like this and accelerate many different types of energy with things like Mirage Gate, but this one is very straightforward. For those who haven't played the Lost Zone before, like myself, this would be a great introductory way to still play a very powerful V-STAR in the form of Giratina, whilst also being able to just kind of dip your toes into the Lost Zone mechanic and kind of find out the best way for that to function. Although I feel like the tempo of the Lost Zone mechanic is going to be significantly slower than things like Mew VMAX that we have in the current standard format, I don't think that means it's going to be less viable by any means. I still think that this deck has a tremendous amount of potential. I'm very much so looking forward to seeing the many different ways that people are going to apply the Lost Zone mechanic as well as Giratina V-STAR into the standard format. If you enjoyed my content today, make sure you like the video, comment which deck you want me to talk about next week below, and then subscribe and turn your notifications on so that you get alerts every time I upload a YouTube video or any other content to my channel. And be sure to check out the Pokedads podcast where Rick, Scott, Aaron, and myself talk about all things Pokemon all the time. Thanks for watching, and I am out. Deuces.